OCL, and I am Tanya Ohm, and this is my final project for teaching strategies for independent learning in the general education classroom. So, encourage students self-awareness, understanding what is needed, self-advocacy, being able to stand up for oneself, self-determination, knowing a determining of what they need to ask for. And of course, all of these work together to help students build in being independent. So students need to learn what is expected of them, and they need to have this in their self-awareness. That as parents, we expect our children to understand that we expect certain things from them, such as taking out the trash, or watering the dog, or whatever is expected of them, and they know what their chores are. Just as teachers, we expect students to come to class on time, and we also want them to bring their books, pencils, paper, and whatever else we have told them that they need for this class. Self-advocacy. Being able to advocate for themselves, they need to recognize when there is an issue or a problem. If they don't understand a math problem, they need to be able to ask. Some of those still have problems with not understanding, and they really don't know where to start asking how to get help for that. We had students that say they know, and then clearly they don't know when you start having them apply what you had tried to teach them. So we have to start over working with those students again. Important for all students, taking control of self-advocacy is an important part of self-determination. They need to be able to determine what they need to advocate for and what it is they're wanting and needing. If they just say, I don't get it, but they can't tell you what they don't get, then they're not quite understanding what's going on there. Using include, and just includes the whole class of demonstrating and explaining things that they need to know, is often a good way to do that. Word identification, vocabulary strategies, reading comprehension, listening, taking notes, writing, all of these fall underneath the independent learning. But they have to learn how to be independent. Therefore, when we're teaching word identification, we say the word. We have them say it back. We have them sound it out. We sound it out. They sound it out. We use the you do, we do, I do a lot of times with words. They also are learning definitions. What does this word mean? How do I use it in a sentence? All of these word identifications fall underneath this independent learning. It just also goes along with the vocab. They learn these vocabulary words. They learn what they mean. They learn how to use them. Some of them, they learn that quickly and they become sight words. Some of them become fluency words. But it was really interesting what I read in chapter 10, that usually a teacher only introduces about 300 words per school year. I thought that was amazing considering we use words all the time. But are they new words? That was what really struck me as interesting. So with reading, we use also different concepts of reading. We use what is this word? What does it mean? And then also in Unit 10, it told us about SCROL, which is the subject and what does it mean, and then the content. How is those headings and those subheadings correlate together, and what do they relate to with the story? Reading is the next one on the scroll. looking at the words and the phrases that are important. And then, of course, outline on the O. Reflect, understand the main idea. And then, of course, the L would just be the learning part of it. And they can also use the read, pause, think, and highlight, and reread. And that was also from Unit 10. And I thought, oh, okay. I think I do that a lot of times with my students when they're not quite understanding what they just read. But there's other acronyms that we can use, and there's one called CAPS, and that was also in Unit 10, and I thought that was really a good one that would probably work for younger students, probably down in first, second grade even. It tells you what's the characters in the story, what's the aim of the story, and then problems. Almost every story has some sort of little problem. Whether it's the cat got stuck in the fence, or the dog jumped too high, or missed the ball, some little problem. But then it has also the S for solved. How did that problem get solved? And I just think this was a wonderful way to introduce this to younger children. And then, of course, listening and taking notes, that's another thing that we have to do. And using all of these and have them writing notes helps them to write things in order of how they happen. Writing using graphic organizers, having them use spider webs on this is the subject and what do you know about that subject. This are different ways of writing strategies down for these youngsters to learn how things happen. Problem solving in math. And we use a lot of these in math, and we don't even realize it. Bring it down, cross it off, borrow, start over, subtract. All of these different types of ways of teaching how to do math. Line up the numbers, add the right column. Is it more than 9? Does it go in the ones place? Does it go in the tens place? A lot of students have trouble with that. And these kind of help them keep them on track with that. And I use several of these in my classroom to help students learn. Like this one right here, small, larger, cross off, borrow, subtract. I use that one a lot in division. Time management and resources. Time management, the age-old problem of being organized and keeping things going. All of those things come into play. So we use planners, calendars, folders, other ways of being organized. Most older kids now use their phones to keep things in, which is not necessarily bad, but what if your phone decides to quit? And then you have lost everything. So I teach, of course, the younger grades. They have planners, and they have homework folders that have a spot for things to just go home. They also have a spot for things that go home need to come back. And I think that works very well. We also have binders for each subject, and they put their information into those folders for those classes. Whether it's, a sheet that tells you how to do multiplication, or if it's how to sound out this word. What are these science things going on at this time? We use those folders to help them stay organized and keep things that they need to keep. I also use Super Science, and that's where they're supposed to put the Super Science magazines until we are finished with them. But I also liked what Chapter 10 said. It talked about HOPS, which was homework, organization, planning, skills, And again, it's just another way to help students stay organized with what they're doing. But they have to stay focused. They have to stay on top of it. And they have to make sure that they're doing it constantly, staying on top of their organization, keeping their folders and keeping their planners updated. So what to do to ensure all students learn to use strategies independently? Helping them understand, self-instruction, self-motivation, self-questioning. Unit 10 was kind of very, very informative. It told me, self-instruction, teach yourself to talk. Well, we've always been told, don't talk to yourself. But in Unit 10, it said, it's okay to talk to yourself. You can talk to yourself, you can talk about your instruction, you can talk about what's going on. And it said that if you talk about it, you're thinking about it, you're seeing it, and you're making that happen. And this can be used even when they're doing bell work or taking that, multiple choice quiz. They read it, and then they read it again, and they look for the key words in those multiple choice tests. And a lot of times you can pick out the correct answer by just rereading the question. And I was very pleased to find that it's okay. And I have been having them read the question. We do, I read it, we read it, and then they read it. And basically what it is, I read it aloud, we all read it aloud, and then I have them read it, not whisper, well, kind of like a whisper, so they're still saying the words, and I can barely hear them. They're reading it to themselves. And I started implementing that after I read this, and I thought this was great. So self-monitoring is a checklist for oneself seeing the effects and changes in the academic work. So they see what they're doing. Are they making accomplishments with their work, or where do they need to improve? And they can check this on their own. And they can also check their behavior with this self-monitoring system. And they can be asking themselves questions, as well as solving problems. And are they doing the work correctly? Are they behaving correctly? Are they having the right posture? Are they having the right attitudes? All of these things are self-questioning, and they can just basically do things by asking themselves questions. And then, of course, with the self-instructions, they can ask all these things, depending on the task, depending on the instruction. And I have them practice talking to themselves, asking these correct questions. And I did use the book. I got a picture of it, and I wanted to just stick it in here because I am very, very impressed with this book. Everything that I've been reading in this book, I just have been overwhelmed at times, but pleasantly surprised that, oh, I can use this. So everything that I've been learning, I can implement, or I have implemented into my classroom. And I have just had a marvelous time learning with all of this. So have a great summer, and thank you very much.